Peace, family. I'm not sure what's going on here. It looped. Let me take the loop off. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Metaphysical Monday. I need you guys to just give me some time to. Yeah, I'm late. I'm on CP time tonight. 42 minutes late to be exact. But with me, you guys, because of how my work is and the way my energy moves and everything, sometimes is unavoidable. But I will try harder in the future to be on time. Or you guys know I'll give you an update tonight. I was actually waiting on my father to come through with some stuff that he had to bring for me, and I didn't want to be interrupted during the live, so I'm late because of that reason. But I'm here. How's everybody doing? And I want to welcome whoever's watching. Um, I want to light my candles before we get started. It's been a couple of weeks because, and that's kind of what I want to get into tonight. I want to talk about this shift that many of us been feeling. I've been getting phone calls. By the way, my name is Sis'Star Kola Soljet. If this is your first time tapping in, this is welcome to Kolagraphy TV, and this is Metaphysical Monday. We are now in our third season, and this is the 10th episode. Okay, now I'm not sure what I put for the title because I changed it a couple of times, but it's basically, when you're in the middle of switching frequencies. I want to talk about the frequency shift that many of us have been going through. I want to give thanks to the ancestors. I want to give thanks to my community, the ones that are present now and the ones that will be present in the future. I want to give thanks for the soul tribe. Give thanks for life. I just give thanks for life, right? So I'm going to start with my soul poem to get started because this is how I operate. I operate from the soul GPS. I don't look in the sky for the creator. I don't look around me or outside of me necessarily for my ancestors because all of these things are working through us, okay? Now, this build is not going to be for everybody because I really wanted to touch the highly sensitive people, the empaths, other priests and priestesses that may be strolling through, people that give a lot of care. It could be even people in the medical or nurse profession, people that work with healing energies. This is kind of for us tonight and anybody else that can get something from it. Okay. So let's start with my soul poem. I didn't write it, but you guys know the backstory on that. If you don't, then just, pay attention. My soul is something inside me that keeps me alive. If it didn't, I couldn't count five. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere. From the crown of my head to the soles of my feet. It hears through my ears, it sees through my eyes. It will never grow old, it will never die. It's truly my soul that keeps me alive. If it didn't, I couldn't count five. And it's just how simple it is for the soul activation. Ashe. So there's been a lot of things going on. I haven't did a metaphysical build on Monday since we had our last guest. For those who may have been tapped in and know my framework, I just want to give you guys, I think I handled it pretty well, but I just want to apologize because I didn't, I don't want anybody thinking I'm pushing any type of narratives just because a certain guest may have a certain mindset. So we're going to start with the platform disclaimer. Metaphysical Monday is hosted by Kola Soljet under Kolagraphy TV. This space centers Black thought, spiritual exploration, and community dialogue. Guests are invited to share their perspectives, experiences, and insights. All views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Kola Soljet or Metaphysical Monday platform. Appearance on this platform does not imply alignment, endorsement, or shared belief. Any clips, excerpts, or redistributed content must include proper credit to Metaphysical Monday and Kolagraphy TV. Unauthorized edits or framing that misrepresents the host or platform are not permitted. Okay. So also, I wanted to center one more boundary statement for so you guys can kind of know whoever's watching, how I, what I represent when it comes to what we center here, okay? So let's see, it's been 2 weeks and I just needed to step back. On our last broadcast, we had a guest who came in boldly pushing an archon narrative. And I mean, for people that's into Gnosticism, more power to you. Um, I don't like the archon narrative in the sense that that's not necessarily my belief. And I don't always see things in the universe as, you know, um, we're fighting these demons more than I see the universe as a space that we learn, evolve, create, grow. Um, there's some tricky things, and I'm not here to talk about the, everything I believe about the universe. What I am here to center is I don't deal with the archon narrative because the way I even view astrology and things of that nature are forces that's within the universe. I feel like everything is working for our greater good. Even if it seems like it's something negative or bad, we're supposed to be gaining and learning something from, from the universe, from the experiences on earth, stuff like that. So to just deem everything, including our ancestors, as demonic, we don't do that here, okay? So he was boldly pushing the archon narrative, speaking with spiritual arrogance as if he held a total monopoly on the truth. But what crossed the line for me was the attempt to redirect this community by speaking against my ancestors or the ancestors or people who may believe in that framework, treating our ancient lineages like they were nonsense, something evil. He even called it mumbo jumbo, like not on the stream, but I had to, I don't want to give too much energy to this individual, but I do want to say this. I had to check that and step away for 2 weeks just to purge that static and enforce our spiritual boundaries and to protect the frequency of this house. Listen to me clearly. We entertain high level thoughts and look at different perspectives on this channel, but this platform operates from a specific, unshakable framework. We work with ancestral, soul GPS, African traditional religions, metaphysics, hermetics, cometics, and also Soljetism, which is a conscious collective that I've created based on, the teachings and just what I've learned and what works for me. Okay. Um, and this is the way it is. So any ego clutter, ego driven, noise is just that is background noise. So we're gonna go ahead and just I started speaking to indifference and I did a standalone video on that. So if you guys haven't seen the power of indifference, healthy indifference, unhealthy indifference, it starts like that. And then we move into a space of healthy indifference if we understand what it is we're going through and just feeling this certain detachment. What inspired me, excuse me, to do this particular build tonight on the static or tuning out the static is because I've been getting a lot of calls from clients and calls from other practitioners. Some of my friends that are fellow practitioners were asking me, like, have you been feeling this overwhelming, feeling of tiredness or feeling drained, just constantly working, pushing, but, are not accomplishing certain things or feeling as if the weight of, what's going on in our environment is like pressing on you. And I'm like, yeah, and it really started, it's been like this the whole year, but for me, it really came down in March. It was a lot of heavy energy. This instant is kind of like too much right now, you guys. It was a lot of heavy energy. So give me a moment. I got my notes here. And it's been like, you're steadily pushing, but, I was still feeling sleepy. I know exactly what a lot of the practitioners have been feeling and people that's highly sensitive because we are going through a shift. And I've been talking a lot about the AI series and different things like that, but it's really important to understand what it is that we're going through and what needs to be done in order to successfully go through it. You hear a lot of people speaking from ego, like, oh, I'm in 4D, I'm in 5D, right? But they don't really explain what this shift is about. So we do have another live that I'm going to be following up with that's going to speak to exactly what it is to settle into this new skin and what that's been like for me and if people can relate to it. But it started off with like, I'm like all excited about this new year. I think a lot of us were. Then we began to feel like it was just an extension of the year before. And this is supposed to be the year of the horse. Like, what is going on, right? But I got a lot of things done, and then all of a sudden I felt this heavy weight. And I was really down on myself because I'm like, you know, trying to balance everything, attempting to balance this and that. I had a lot of family stuff that happened, and I just decided to, I just started checking out, like where I'm supposed to be tapped in. You may see me post, you may see me post things that's not my regular content, but it was really because I began to get into a place of indifference. Like nothing is connecting. We talked about the glitches and people glitching out. I've been dealing with some heavy family changes, things with my clients. So, it's like almost like feeling flatline, right? And a lot of people have been ignoring it or trying to ignore it, constantly pushing through. But as we are resetting to get into this new energy that is now taking place, I don't want to go into all of the astrological placements, but it's a lot of things going on with Gemini and Uranus, just things that change out of nowhere. Sudden jobs could be ending, relationships ending out of nowhere, just things that just happen really quickly. And I spoke to like not holding on to those things, but allowing it to just letting the wave pass. We talked about going into the cocoon and coming out of the cocoon, but really what happens in that space of the incubator when you know you've been through this crucible, you've been through the death, and now you're ready um, to start your new life. You're ready to fly. But there's this heaviness. It's this, like I always say, the incubator period is actually the most important part of healing, of going through these changes because that's the period where you're the most sensitive. That's the period where you're not completely well yet. You have to make sure you're very mindful of who's around you, what you're taking in. There's been so many downloads. I've been really enjoying sleep because I've been getting a lot of dreams. I've been getting the rest that I need, just calling back all of the hours and stuff that we have lost over even just these COVID years. A lot of us have continued to work. I work from home. I never stopped working since COVID. Um, my regular jobs ended, but everything just started, going crazy in my home space. So I moved from one state to the next. This has been a lot. A lot of things have happened. I don't want to ramble on that, but yeah, it's like just settling in. And I didn't even realize how tired I was. It's like wow. So I wanted to talk about the static in the station because we were all excited, like, oh, we're getting out of the year of the snake, we're getting out of the year of the dragon. 2024 was the year of the dragon. Lots of betrayal, lots of crazy stuff, depending on what your placements are. Um, things were still kind of flowing though and moving, but it was just a lot of heaviness that also happened. The year started off with a lot of momentum. So then after the year of the dragon, we go into the year of the snake. Crazy. It was just another crazy year. So finally, we're like, okay, the year of the horse is here. I'm all excited. What's new? Let's move forward. And it's just more of this heaviness. Like, okay, Saturn and Pisces. Okay, it's been going on since like last year, and this has been extremely heavy. So and what's really was going on is like where I'm at also with my platform is like, all of this knowledge that we take in, we can take in so much information. We're in the age of information, but do you even understand what it is you're taking in? Do you understand what is taking place as far as, all of this information? How do you dissect it? How do you decipher what's real and what's not real? Now, for some of us old school people, we have different ways that we've, acquired information, but now there's AI, artificial intelligence, so that also helps. But a lot of younger people, or younger generations, they missed a lot of the core um, information and things that ground us because AI is a great tool, but it also has a tendency to sometimes put guardrails up and reframe information. And there's a lot of fake news, there's a lot of fake deep videos, and people just take this information in, and it's because it sounds good, they don't question it or even do the work or the science on how real this is. So whatever the case, it's been a lot. Then there's been a lot of good information and downloads coming in too, but you definitely got to separate the good stuff from the junk. So I was speaking to people like automatically like, oh, I'm on 4D, I'm in 5D, I'm in all of these different dimensions. It's like people want to spiritual bypass and skip the work. But what I'm here to do and what this platform is about is making sure we stay spiritually sound and are spiritually liberated, but mental soundness. You have to have that. Of course, it comes through meditation, but it also comes through, and meditation is number one, but it also comes through understanding the information that you're taking in and putting it to practice. if you don't do spiritual application. And that's why I know that the people that talks all of this ego-based stuff, oh, I'm already God, I made it already, I don't need anything else, all of that sounds good. But at the end of the day, whether you're, no matter what the belief is, we can all wake up at 4 a.m. wondering how did we get to a certain place, and where do we go next. It doesn't matter. Nobody is bigger than the program, and that's the problem. A lot of people think they are, or a lot of us, we can fall into this trap of like, I got it, but we're not bigger than the program. There's something that's bigger that's going on in our world, and even especially now, okay, because we're dealing with a hijack. Literally dealing with a hijack. So when I talk about the static and the station, I'm speaking literally of the frequency shift when we go from one frequency to a next, or when we go from we shed in the skin of the snake, but what is it like to settle and fit into the new skin? Which we'll get deeper into that on my next bill, on my next solo bill, because I may have some guests coming on next week. I'm not really sure yet. It's just been like a disconnect with a lot of things. So for those that's been feeling disconnected, though, we want to talk about this shift between worlds. So there's the AI hijack, right? If you guys have not seen my Aquarius video yet, the technology Aquarius versus or the technology versus humanitarianism, please watch it to understand more of what I'm speaking to. Okay, because I just keep going. We're dealing with a series here, so I'm just continuing to go. Okay, so we're dealing with the shift between worlds and the AI hijack. We're not just living through a change in technologies. We're literally dealing with a violent shift between two entirely different worlds. Um, Artificial intelligence is trying to outpace the organic, and our souls are feeling the friction. Absolutely. I spoke to like the world is going to continue to become more artificial. Some of that fuzziness, even that we may feel, that's what I call the static. Certain things that feels like you just, even though your best intention is to move forward, you feel almost this like a fog over you that makes you, or you need to rest. Some people don't have the privilege to rest, but when you can rest, you really need to take rest, because right now we need to be connected to our internal self. So we're dealing with this AI hijack. What I was speaking to in the Aquarius video is technology is the container, and the water inside the container is our consciousness, right? So the more artificial stuff that's taking place and the more technology grows, we got to make sure we stay connected to the consciousness, and that we're pouring in as much conscious water, information, humanitarianism, or laughter, and our ideas and the things that make us human. Our love, our pain, our joy, all of those things need to be continue to be poured in as consciousness into this vessel, because that's what makes us human. We're learning to be more human. And it's going to take for some people it's not going to hit right away. But the more we're squeezed in this metal world, and the more information and everything is this certain, don't think they're just giving us information. This information is still being policed. You still got to be politically correct in many ways. It's still going to be things that people do that's unscrupulous, even though we like AI for efficiency, we like AI for the creativity and different things that it does. We have to be very mindful of the information we intake, and protecting our own mind, still weighing it out. So that's why I'm saying sleep is very, very crucial right now, because it's really the gateway to what's in our inner world right now, and what we need to do, and how we need to move, and how to strengthen ourselves to get used to being in our bodies again, in a way that we're not always outside of ourselves, but we're really understanding that our soul. That's why I do the soul poem. It's to remember who we are inside of all of this stuff, because we are in such an artificial place. We even eat artificial food. So we have to remember what it is to be real, what it is to be human again. We've been isolated. It's just all kind of things going on. I'm sorry I'm speaking fast, which I know I'm on my Virgo stuff, and I need to get to this information. So again, AI as is replacing even, work and different things like that too, but just humans in general. We're talking about artificial wombs there, and attempting to create, and just showing us all type of ways that we can bypass what's organic and what we known to be real to us, and giving us the quick way to do it, a microwave way of living, a microwave. And we've always lived kind of for a long time in a microwave society. So just imagine with AI, right? we're moving from the familiar world to the AI age, information overload, constant stimulation. And because the outside world is becoming increasingly dead, synthetic, and artificial, your soul and your inner man has to be 10 times stronger just to generate real living energy. We're going into a completely different artificial energy grid now. And it's really important for people to remember that. I mean, we can do everything and try to stay in a state of like sleep and avoidance. But at the end of the day, the world is going to continue to move fast and into this artificial world, no matter if you acknowledge it or not. If we stay stubborn and fixed on old traditions, even us as spiritualists, if we haven't, really found ways to shift. We're still talking about the same old stuff. We're not downloading anything. Preachers in church, same thing. Well, if you're a leader, if you're a person that's highly empathic, if you are a priest or priestess, yeah, we have to really sing unto the Lord a new song, because certain things are no longer going to be the way to do it. It's like we got to adapt to the new world that we're in. And one of the things that we should have been doing that we've lost sight of, that I do agree with Gnosticism, but obviously it comes from Kemetic beliefs, is dealing with the Ka and the Ba, dealing with the soul's journey. Because I'm gonna tell you like this: no matter how artificial things on the outside is, the only thing we do have left is the essence of our soul for those that subscribe to the soul, right? And it's really important that we listen to it, and it dwells in the belly. You could feel, well, I know for me, and a lot of us, when you're connected to that soul or gut GPS, you can feel certain things that it's like pain. When it's time to go to sleep, rest. When it's time to feed yourself, feed yourself. If it's something if your body's rejecting it, don't force yourself, because yeah, we're fighting through a lot of things, you guys. That it's a real war that we're going through. We're going through spiritual warfare, psychological warfare, and so forth. So um as we're shifting through this hijack, we just got to remember to, stay connected to the inside, stay connected to people and things with high vibrations, continue to do the work, but also rest and take care of you. Because, like I said, you got to be stronger. We got to be stronger, right? As individuals before we can even, really try and deal with the collective. Now, for a lot of us, we've been doing this work for years. I've been doing spiritual work for 25 years at this point, right? Even when I work jobs. This has been my core thing. Um, but not just spiritual work, everyday work. People that's going to work every day, people that are raising children, people that are just doing whatever we do every day to survive, right? The caretakers of the family, the black sheeps, the doormats, the people that's constantly pushing, the ambitious people of the world, even. Um, the weight of your years finally catching up. All of the things that we've done, and we think we could just, operate on autopilot and not getting sleep and, barely eating or eating the wrong things or just whatever it is. You're laying down, but your mind is still operating. But before we can look at what's coming in, we have to really honor what we carry. This is why we need to rest, because the fatigue that we are experiencing right now isn't from just this week. It's the accumulated weight of years of survival, of labor, of spiritual heavy lifting, and it's finally catching up to the flesh. The spirit is like, okay, and I got something to tell you. That's what it's saying. God's trying to tell you something, but soul's trying to tell you something, right? So we need to listen. But sometimes we're so tired we don't even remember. I hear people say, "I don't even remember my dreams. I don't dream." And you do dream, but sometimes we're just so disconnected from that space. And the reason I speak to dreams is because dreams is definitely very key in, when people are getting downloads and messages and connecting with even our ancestors and guides. It comes through the dream world. The time when we can literally be in our subconscious and, stay still enough to get the messages, not only in the dream world, but this is where I'm speaking to, where a lot of things are coming through right now, through meditation as well. Um, but this is definitely a time where we need to listen to our bodies. Okay, there's some involuntary upgrades taking place. Your mind is going to tell you to keep pushing, keep pushing. But our body has officially taken the microphone in this sense. And when I speak to the body, I'm speaking to the soul that is directing the body. It all works together, but right now we can't allow the mind to just run the show. You have to listen to what the body is saying, and also listen to what your soul is speaking from the belly. Like I said, it may come in different for some people, but I know for me, I have like a weird relationship with that part of myself that's empathic. I don't know if others have been through this. If you have, you can write it in the comments. Feel free. Welcome into whoever's tapping in, all who's watching. Um, Sometimes, like when I get overwhelmed, I'll begin to get pains in my stomach. And it's almost like the same kind of annoyance like hunger pains, but it doesn't feel like hunger pains. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like you need to honor yourself and sleep. Sometimes it makes my throat hurt. My throat and my belly will, they'll feel a certain way um, when I need to eat. All of those different things, but it's like a feeling that just you can ignore it, but it's almost like your body warning you, like, don't ignore this, because sometimes we push. This is why people, even young people, are having heart attacks and different things like that, and high blood pressure, and just living in survival. And a lot of us, even when you have money and you are in a space where you feel like you got a plan or a routine or a framework spiritually, you still are dealing with like you're dealing with spiritual, like you're on autopilot spiritually. You're still in survival mode, but you're in spiritual survival mode. Where I've met practitioners that will do a lot of spiritual work, energy work. They do it all day. Um, but wouldn't even clean it out. Wouldn't clean themselves or clean the aura after. Like I'm like Kola, I'm just too tired. Like after I did the work, I just went to sleep. And you just did all of this spiritual work, dealing with people and other energies and stuff, and you went to sleep with all of that on you for real. But yeah, sometimes it's like that, just like falling asleep in your clothes or something, right? But we have to get to a space where we have to take control of what's going on, even through this heaviness that's weighing on us. That's why you need your rest, because that's the only way we can fight this beast, this spiritual energy, this artificial energy that's hijacking our reality. And honestly, I'm not saying it like, oh, just like AI is some entity, but it is an entity, but not in a such like it's the devil, but it's the way we're so consumed by it. It's the way we're so connected to the way the world is moving, period. Technology, period. Not just AI, but just the way the world is moving, period. And how we're so disconnected and how things are so fast too. We don't even value a meal. It's like a person eating their food and not remembering what it tastes like because you've eaten it so fast. But anyway, body awareness, fatigue, energy changes, and rest cycles. Our core truth: we must obey our body right now. The body shift is completely out of control. The body is forcing these changes and demands to protect us. Because the physical flesh is trying to adapt to a digital matrix, it was never originally designed to touch. And it's real. And honestly, the more time passed, the more people will begin to feel this. Okay, so now I want to go on to module 6. I haven't named any of the numbers, but now we're on 6. Okay, hibernation, restoration as spiritual warfare. I'm picking up like people out there that's been feeling guilty and actually viewing their exhaustion is as laziness or personal failure. You meant to start this gym class. You meant to launch your new hobby or creative project that you wanted to make some money off of, or you meant to get your passport. You wanted to go live, you wanted to make content, you want to start a YouTube channel, whatever it is. But what you're calling laziness right now is actually sacred hibernation. It's your soul building a cocoon, and you cannot rush the transformation inside of it. Okay. So I even had guests that were supposed to come on and we rescheduled. I'm not mad at nobody, because I understand. So when people were like, oh, I'm feeling really tired, I won't be able to do the show this week, or I may, postpone it myself, like, but I know for 2 weeks I definitely needed that, right? So it's telling us that a lot of you guys are going to be feeling this pull even more. The pulling inward, needing more sleep, needing more solitude, maybe even feeling tired after being around certain people, certain energies, even people you enjoy being around. It's like even just talking on the phone could be that thing that's the draining thing. But it's basically It's like your body is forcing sleep because it's running a spiritual background check or background update. Like I said, a lot of things that you may get in the download of sleep right now, you may not even know what it is just yet, but it will come up when it's needed. You have certain things and keys inside of you right now. For those of you who have obeyed your thirst and obeying your body to rest, certain downloads that want to come in for those who are not obeying their body and getting rest, and you don't even know what it is just yet. It's just keys that are being laid, seeds that are being planted inside of your soul because you're going to need it at a later time. If you don't yield in sleep, the energetic field is left thin and vulnerable to these artificial frequencies dominating the planet. And not just that, for those of you who are always thinking you got curses and spells on you, get your rest. Vibrate higher. You can't be bothered by certain things when your vibration is operating at a certain level. I went through a lot of things with psychological warfare, and people are trying to throw you off your stuff, keep you up late, have you, stressing with their stuff instead of your own stuff, just whatever it is. But those distractions that's an enemy to your progress. So let's go into module 7 with food, appetite, and frequency. You may even notice that I know for me, my relationship with food is changing. I always had a weird diet anyway, but it's like some days I'm like not hungry at all, like I just can't eat, so I don't force myself. I definitely stay hydrated. I keep drinking my water, my juice, and everybody knows their own body and what's best for you. And then there's some days that I wake up and I really need to eat. However, my diet plan or what I need may change. It may be different. You may also be experiencing that. You may actually feel like you're starving one day. For those that still may eat meat or heavy meals, you may be totally turned off by that. Where you like love steak. I've never been a steak eater myself, but for those that I like what I like. I like sweets. And that's something that I just haven't been. Just certain things that the body is starting to reject. Some people will continue to force themselves to eat what you reject because your mind is saying this is something that I enjoy. But I ask that I warn that you not do that because your body is actually changing its fuel to match this eternal shift that we're going through, right? This internal frequency. Again, it's all about the soul GPS right now. It's all about this soul journey right now because that's the most authentic thing that we have right now, right? And the more real we become inside, real with ourselves, real with people, real with just real within ourselves, authentic, honest, truthful, not spiritually bypassing, doing the work, doing the shadow work, the grief, and the more real, you're going to begin to see what's in your external world too, in your world. We can't just change the whole world, but you can change your placement, your frequency, and your experiences by how you move within your body, in your vessel. Okay, so the appetite will change. You guys, some of you may already be experiencing that. Some days hungry, some days not. Craving shifting. Relationship with food and energy could be changing as well. Like I said, learning to listen rather than forcing routines or old habits. Also, some of you may be drawn to different types of foods, learning about food, learning about different diets. Everybody's not the same. So it's not everybody needs to eat this. And, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with extremes either. Just finding what literally works for you and balance. Okay, you fall off. It's not a thing where you got to beat yourself up, but it's a mindfulness thing about what we're ingesting, what we're digesting, what we're listening to, and so forth. Now going into the gut, because that also deals with diet. The gut is the soul GPS. So we've been taught to look in the sky for answers, right? And to a degree, yeah, as above, so below. But when we're talking about the God seed, I'm just a firm believer that that's planted within us. We have the God seed within us, right? But the God seed is also all over in creation as well. We're talking about universal energies, but what I'm speaking to is um, your own internal navigation system that we need to begin to, become more in harmony with. So your truest navigation system is sitting right in your core. Your gut is acting as a soul GPS screaming at you to trust what your flesh already knows. Okay. I've learned this going back to the soul poem. I actually learned that in first grade. Sometimes that's drowned out because people have their own, certain institutions have their own agenda as for why we should look outside of ourselves for God, or why we should be in alignment with certain politics and things like that. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't feel right, it ain't right. Your soul GPS is going to be the number one, um, or should be the number one navigation system, and along with of course, your mind and intuition and things like that. But we have to learn to listen when our gut is screaming at us, because if not, the voice gets smaller. But like for some of us that are highly sensitive, empathic priestesses, just people that's sensitive to energy in general, you literally feel a pain in your belly. For some of us, I know I do. It's like a pain that you feel that's actually indicating that it's, you have gut instinct, you have that too, but this is a different kind of pain that pulls on you to, indicate it's trying to give you a download. It's trying to communicate with you, communicate something, whether it's about don't go that way, or what your body needs right now. Some people also been dealing with a lot of dehydration, right? Even when they're drinking water. So yeah, may need to make lemon water, some cucumber water, it's a lot of things you could do for your thirst, but yeah, obey it for sure. Things with electrolytes in it and stuff, right? That's what I do. So anyway, we're gonna go to the gut feelings, intuition through the body intelligence, and learning to trust internal signals is what I want to close on with, or that's what I'm speaking to when I speak to the soul GPS. I'm trying to get through these, you guys. Do anybody have any questions so far? So put them there. If not, comments, concerns. Let's go back to dreams. I've been talking about dreams since the beginning, and dream messages. Um, some of us haven't even been sleeping. So when I finally hit that crash, like through February through January, um, even partially through March, I was not resting. I'm like staying up, pulling all nighters, doing spiritual work, doing candle work. I have a candle service for people or clients that can't burn in their house, and I do energy work for my clients. So I wasn't even sleeping. I'm just up around the clock. Not just because of that, but my spirit now is pushing me to just be up. I'm getting downloads through the night, but eventually I crash because the body definitely needs rest. Um, some of us are waking up more tired. Some people are waking up more tired than when they went to bed. I finally got out of that cycle, but yeah, it's still happening. Others haven't remembered. We were speaking about people not remembering dreams, and the dream realm has become a construction zone. It really have. It's like it's massive spiritual work happening while you sleep. That's why it's so important to make sure we're calling our sleep back. And when I say it's becoming a construction zone, it's because I've already kind of touched on this already earlier on, but there's downloads that's taking place when we're sleeping that we're not even sure what's happening yet. The body is like reconstructing itself through this process, to a point that for some people this may look like dissociation. For some people this could have came out as emotions, more tears, feeling like you're going crazy. I take it as it resonates. For some people this could feel like just being really weighed down by something heavy, right? But it's a good time to really set our sleep and make sure we're getting that rest. Don't push for that. I got my second win. No, you don't need the second win. You need the second win to be reserved for, for what you're going to need in the future. So dream recall and not remembering dreams, that's where it comes from, because we're not resting, or sleeping and still feeling as if your eyes are burning, or you're not resting. Is because your mind is still going. It's like something is still sometimes it's because a lot of people are spiritually bypassing. When you spiritually bypass, that can also create a sensation where you're not sleeping. Shout out to my boy Al. I remember I was, because I'm like, you know, you get to a certain level in evolution, and you think, you just, I don't want nobody telling me. But we all have something. Everybody got something. Everybody got something that we can learn from. We're never just so bigger than the program that we can't learn from each other. Um, and I remember I wasn't sleeping. I was going through a lot of trauma at this point. I was dealing with trauma that I hadn't even dealt with, old family stuff coming up, and just things that I hadn't processed, and I couldn't sleep. And it was like we were dealing with, I want to say, could have been a lot of Saturn energy at that time. And it was weighing on me because when you have like certain frequencies, like our planetary alignments, namely like Mars, Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, um, I'm missing one, Pluto even, they'll keep you up. There's like certain planetary alignments where it weighs on your sleep. It'll wear you out. Mars is the easiest fix because you just want to burn your energy out. It deals like with Aries energy and high energy. You know, Scorpio is also associated with Mars, but it deals with intensity that can literally be burnt out through physical work. Like if you have an Aries child, like some of you guys, they may have high energy. Sometimes a quick fix for that, especially during the summer, you know, take them to the park and let them run that energy out. You know, just things that, you know, burn the energy. But any of us can have these placements. And I remember my friend, he's like my spiritual brother, was basically telling me, like, you know, maybe you're dealing with some things that, you know, you're not dealing with something that's there that needs to be dealt with. And I'm like, no, it's nothing wrong with me. I'm not dealing with anything. You know, I got really offended. Um, but when I thought about nighttime, it was really bad. I wasn't sleeping. Like it was so bad that I was dreading nighttime. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna happen all over again. And I'm watching the clock. And I'm up till like 7 in the morning and 8 in the morning. It was crazy. And I went through a period of that during 2022. But once I began this shadow work and started actually doing the work and really sorting out what was going on and the pain that I was carrying, old pain, not my ex-boyfriend. I'm talking about pain from like family and just old childhood wounds and just things that I've had to do to survive and endure, you know, different things in my life. And when I finally dealt with that, and that's why I said a lot of this stuff, you know, it's going to reveal that we have work to do. While people are wanting to jump frequencies, jump from one station to the next station. Um, and I spoke about the station, not because we're going to just sit here and talk about the static in the station, but the static is the distractions. The static is when we know we have with every intention to push to the next, you know, the next frequency, the next dimension, if you even want to go there. But there's always this static, you know, like when you're in a car and you're listening to a radio station, right? But as we're moving and traveling, you know, the tune is clear at first when you're in this certain, you know, space or frequency. I'm using it as a metaphor. But as you began to move on and you go into other cities and other states, you know, even before you get to other states, you begin to hear static in the system. You can't hear the song you want to hear anymore. And now you got Spanish music coming through and country music coming through and R&B and hip hop, all of these stations. And you like trying to jam on this, but then this is coming in, right? It's the same thing that happens with our internal frequency. You know with everything in you that you're not that anymore. I'm not that person. I'm not that thing. This isn't the vibe I'm on. But rather it's external things happening where people are trying to pull you back into that frequency, or things out of habit and things that feel good, or it's easier to be in this space that you stay in the static. You know, because you're not that anymore. You're not whatever you were, but you're not quite to that destination yet where you can literally hear the tune in a fine, you know, the fine tuning where you can literally hear it clear, right? You're in the static. And a lot of people right now, we're dealing with that static energy. And that's why I had to take those 2 weeks to recharge myself to get out of the static. Am I totally out of the static? No. No. Because honestly, I've been dealing with those glitches that we spoke to, those geofences, they fighting hard to keep me in this old frequency. And so even myself going to what's comfortable because this weight has been so heavy and you get upset, like, oh, I gotta force this. I gotta force this to happen. I need a job now. I need this to happen. I need the love of my life. I need money. I need success, whatever it is. But it's like this, you know, this energy, Saturn in particular, it stops us. It slows you down. Like, whoa, what are we building here? You know, it's things that's been working for you for years. This spiritual bypassing and working on autopilot and living on autopilot and things that survival mode and things that's worked, but that doesn't mean it's sustainable anymore, right? So we're in a space where certain things may have fallen apart. You know, people having financial issues, having severe issues in relationships, family relationships, because there's something that you've been doing to my star seeds, to the soul jets, to the ones that identify as chosen ones. Not my term, but I still acknowledge it. To the ones who are highly sensitive, highly empathic. You are in a space where, you know, you have to understand that the war is on. It's that you have to, it's like, okay, stop a minute. You'll get to these spaces that you want to get to, but what are you building? As we are destroying or burning the old, for some people it is burning bridges. You got to destroy in order to rebuild. So as we are walking away from this Sodom mindset, the Sodom and Gomorrah mindset, like don't look back, you turn into, the pillar of salt. But as we're moving from that, what are you rebuilding in that space? So for those that have been seeing all of a sudden stopping their finances when everything was going well, or all of a sudden things that feel dead, or relationships that feel stagnant, or people changing up or showing who they are now, it's like, okay, that's the static. But as we know and we're committed to moving forward, what are you rebuilding? See, what we're dealing with is a need for structure, a need for form, a need for a new way. Sometimes it's new contracts, new agreements with yourself and the universe, new agreements with the ancestors, right? Let me go ahead and, oh yeah, good. We're actually going into the ancestor part now. So yeah, I already spoke to that. So just pay attention to the dream messages and things like that that are also coming through. So ancestors and blood memory. I wanted to touch on that. Um, I don't know how people connect with their ancestors. I know for me, especially with a background in E5, um, and I say a background because I'm no longer a practicing priestess of E5. I'm a Saturnian priestess now. Of course, I still work with my Orishas. I don't belong to a house. Once my priest died, um, and I couldn't get certain supplies anymore, and I just don't trust the networks. There's a lot of gatekeeping, but there's also a lot of scammers. So I just decided to be a solitary practitioner. And at this point, with the three priestess paths that I was already on, I've emerged to as Saturnian priestess, and that's a different lane. The spiritual doula of the underworld. I deal with grief, shadow work. We deal with betrayal energies and healing and moving from the shadow. And I still deal with my other things too, but that's just something else that I've dealt with a lot of heavy energy because that's where our people are right now. That's where the community, the world, a lot of people are dealing with those things. But I deal with the ancestors through the blood, through the DNA, through our sleep. Of course, we get signs around us too, but I know that the true way our ancestors speak to us is through us. We still carry, if you want to say the blood of the slave, if you want to say we still carry our ancestors' blood, that's what still connects us, from generation to generation. And through that, through our DNA, through our frequencies and things, our ancestors speak to us, right? So another reason why sleep is so good right now. When we talk about this physical shift, and we aren't just talking about cells, we're talking about blood memory and how ancestors are using your very nervous system to communicate things that never got resolved, which goes back to my 2022 break. Where I really, I didn't know what was going on. I mean, literally, the lack of sleep was like weighing on my mental health. Like, okay, I can't do this every night. But once I made that commitment to work with myself and with the ancestors and understanding why certain things happen, and why they have to happen, and why sometimes we have energetic mismatches in our family, and how E5 teaches us that, certain things that we agreed to before we came to this planet, you still things that plays out here in real time, as above so below, if you've never resolved it. Okay. Some of our greatest adversaries, which is why I don't necessarily subscribe to everything as the archons and the aliens did it and all of that, because some of our biggest adversaries become our greatest teachers in this universe, in this university, right? So, and believe me, if you connect to your soul GPS and to your inner self, you speak to yourself, you will get the messages. If you stay an open vessel for your ancestors, I don't mean just an open vessel for anything to violate. I'm speaking of being open to you, open to your lineage, open to your own spiritual gifts. You're gonna get more. You're gonna get more information, more blessings. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna see that, you know, we worry about a lot of things that we shouldn't even worry about. You'll see that your needs are met. Sometimes we just gotta, go with the flow. But anyway, the ancestors are using our very nervous system to communicate things that never got resolved within us. Why center the ancestors? Because bloodlines and inherited is an inherited memory. Bloodlines and inherited memory. Excuse me. The body carries is a carrier of that memory. So your bloodlines and your inherited memories, okay, it's inherited. It's a divine gift. Um, and your body, of course, is the vessel or to carry or the carrier of that memory. So personal perspective on ancestral communication. You get personal perspectives on ancestral communication, meaning, there's certain messages that only belong to you. There's certain things that maybe a practitioner or a guide or even our own family uh, can't give to you. It's things that will come directly to you for you to know your wisdom, right? Um, Now, a practitioner making, like I do dream analysis, and there's others that work in that field. Yeah, they can may help you to decipher things, but at the end of the day, the message is yours. And sometimes a message changes. You'll get one message, and as you evolve, that same message will stay with you for a long time. And that's what I love about a great E5 practitioner that really understands how to read. And just how long that message echoes with you when you get a real good divination you know no shade, but yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to go into now the dance between the flesh and the shadow. Okay, so we see that there's this fierce tug of war happening within us right now. The old version of you is fighting for its life, while the emerging higher self is demanding that you let go of the dead weight. Okay, so higher self and lower self, old self and emerging self, you're not quite there yet. It's the emerging self, right? And that internal conflict is taking place during this growth period. There's multiple frequencies operating at the same time. That goes back to what I said about the channel stations. You're picking up waves from KMEL and KBLX and all of these different. You got the Spanish station coming in. You got the country music coming in. You got the news station coming in. All these different frequencies. So we have to listen to the one that is really pulling on us strongly, and the one that leaves that old frequency behind. If you know you're already graduating from that, I mean, when we know better, we do better. People talk about all of this information they get, but what are we doing with it? How are we processing it back to how this bill started? Okay, so a lot of this stuff I already covered because I kind of went off script. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to removing the internal blocks. We clog our receivers with too much news. We talked about this already. Too much scrolling, too much emotional baggage. And today we got to clear that internal clutter so that the real signal can actually get through. Okay. So this is back to that, back to black, back to yourself. When I say black, back to the void, back to your center. Sometimes just detaching, unplugging. We've been talking about that a lot. But we also have emotional and physical blocks, mental and information clutter, which prevents us from receiving clearly. So, of course, just detaching, meditation, obeying your body. Also, again, looking at what the diet is. What do we want to eat? What is your body craving? Um, Not just what's habitual, but what is your body telling you it needs? That's what I mean by obey your thirst, right? Not my line. I borrowed it. Anyway, so number 13, or finishing this is just, removing the clutter. So number 13 deals with sensitive people and new frequencies. If you are an empath, an intuitive, a spiritual worker, the skin you are wearing probably feels too thin right now. Okay, because the new frequencies are hitting this earth and landing directly on your open nerves. Okay, so yeah, I've kind of covered all of this. What I'm going through, I'm just kind of reiterating it for those that may have just been tapped in, and thank you for those who are still watching. I'm almost done, but this is important. It's important to some people, so take it as it resonates. So, empaths, intuitives, and spiritual workers, we are at a space of heightened sensitivity right now and new levels of awareness. So, this is just a reminder again that we need to make sure we are connecting, literally, not just giving out so much. Um, get into that space of healthy indifference, even sometimes ignoring negativity. I had to, you may see me posting, but I have not been engaged. I had to take some time to get unengaged from social media. I'm just now kind of coming back in, like, okay, and I need to do Metaphysical Monday, and I need to talk to people too, but you know yeah. I'm like, I've been taking like naps, like waking up early and then taking 4-hour naps, after doing work and reading for people and spacing out time. Anyway, So then we have number 14, aging and spiritual sensitivity. Yeah, some of us are hitting that plateau, different age groups, whether we're in our late 20s, coming from young 20s, going into our 30s, our late 30s, hitting 40, right? In our 40s, feeling changes within our 40s and 50s even and so forth. You know, there's even older impacts, people that's made it to the stage of elder who are really very sensitive. People in their 70s and 80s and some even in their 90s, they're also getting downloads. You know, but for all of us, whatever age, as you're feeling this aging a process or a spiritual sensitivity, especially, and not just aging as in a physical number, but even in how long you've been doing certain work, spiritual work, right? Um, but to seasoned empaths and elders that may be listening, aging in this microwave era requires a total different energetic protocol because your recovery needs have changed and your spiritual maturity demands a higher level of protection. Okay, older empaths, changes that come with age, different energetic and recovery needs and spiritual maturity. And even for some of you older empaths, how people are saying, "Oh, you're a grandmother, you're a great grandmother, you're supposed to babysit, you're supposed to take on my kids, you're done with seeing the world." Hell to the no, because some people in their older age, they have done so much, their whole life sacrificing for other people, and you don't have that in you no more. You want to really enjoy life. And now for those of you who want to do, I want my grandkids every week or this child or be responsible for this and church functions and all of that, more power to you. But you have the absolute right to set a boundary with yourself in your age. I mean, hey, time is steadily ticking. Enjoy your life. If you can travel and you still in that space, travel. If it's things you want to learn, learn. If it's places you want to go, go. If you need to rest, nap, eat, whatever you need to do for you, eat what you want to eat sometime too. Now, take that with a grain of salt. For people that have health issues, yeah, follow your diets. But as far as people trying to dictate, your freedom. Some people have worked their whole life. I mean, retirement age is even at a later date now. So how dare somebody tell you what to do with your time? You do what feels good to you, and that's to my elders. And I give thanks, and I want to shout out any elder that may be tuned in, the real elders, not the 40 something elders and the 50 something elders. I'm talking about 60s, 70s, 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s even. Shout out to them. They've paid the cost to be the boss, and their job is not taking care of all of their children's children and great grandkids. And like I said, unless that's what you want to do. But let's be clear. So now 15, going into healing the healer. And this is the reality check, because a lot of us healers don't think we need healing or we got it or I can do it. And I've done a lot of healing on myself. Oh my God, 2024 was crazy. This whole COVID era was crazy because I actually had the time to do a lot of the spiritual work without having to work a job. So yes, double down on spiritual baths, on meditation, on needing to cry and release. For those of you who need to do that, do it by all means. It makes the energetic body and the spiritual body lighter, makes you feel free, makes the heart lighter. We don't want to go through our transition with a heavy heart. So to every healer, priest, practitioner under the sound of my voice who's hearing this right now, who is holding space for you while who's holding space for you while you are holding it for the world? That's the question. Who is holding space for you while you're holding it for the world? And we spoke on that too. But it is time to step off the front line sometime and allow your own vessels to be mended. Some of you need to just pull back. I see some readers even on here. They make videos every day, every day, every day. I mean, I've been reading for 25 years, but I chose not to have a reading channel for many different reading reasons. But for the main reason is because this is what I do every day in real life. So what I look like just doing reading after reading after reading for audiences, and sometimes it's not reciprocated. Sometimes it's very demanding. Sometimes, and it's an oversaturation of readers. For those who are doing it and you're doing well at it, more power to you. And I do sample reads. I do readings. I have a channel called Dark Mirror Intuition. I need to get back to that. I kind of fell back from that for a minute, but I do readings. But I do them at my own discretion, because that's my profession. I don't, that's part of what I do for a living also. So yeah, I give sample readings. I give readings just to give to the collective, all of that. But that really spends your energy a lot. And you can invite a lot of parasitic people to the bills. That's why so many of them burn out, and more power to them. But for those that choose to do that and that's their thing, like I said, that's great. But just make sure you're taking that time to pour into yourself. And when you need to step back, need to step off your channel, or need to stop whatever it is you're doing, to make sure your own vessel is being mended, that you're tending to yourself, right? So, because healers need healing, Um, spiritual teachers and spiritual workers, they need rest. The reality check for leaders is, even if we think we know it all, even if you've studied for decades, you've meditated, you've eaten all your herbs and your veggies and your Wheaties, you got your vitamins. This new artificial wave is something else. It's something different. And those old tools can't even fully prepare us to be ready for this, okay? Nobody is untouched. And the priest and the prophet have to bow to this physical recalibration just like everyone else. Nobody is, like my mom used to say, nobody ain't iron ass Pete, And as we're dealing with that iron world, yeah, we need to make sure we are getting that tending to. And even some of these elders, when people just forget about them, master teachers and stuff, people like John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, and many others, I don't know what's going on, the truth about Brother Hemmett, Dr. Hemmett, um, Brother Bobby Hemmett, but a lot of these elders aren't getting or didn't get the honor and the respect that they need. So take it as a younger practitioners, and while we still can, honor yourself, because if you don't honor you, nobody else will. It's very few that really will honor and respect you. They will just continue to consume, not even thinking that you deserve compensation for the work and the research you put in, you know and I'm big on that. It's not about everything's supposed to be free. I mean, because information is out there, but there's people that's working, they read, reading books, reading information, studying. They've done the science in so many ways, and they're translating it in a way that you don't have to do it. They're translating it in ways that's easier for you to understand. You damn right people deserve compensation when they're giving. You don't have to charge for everything, but yeah, people need compensation. People need some reciprocity. How you think people are going to continue to go like that? That's what burns people out and causes resentment. And I just wanted to say that. And so for this last thing is take care of yourself. So number module 16, this is the last one, preparing for the next frequency. All of the chaos, all of the exhaustion, all of the static is leading to one specific moment that your body is being radically tuned to receive a brand new frequency. And this is a frequency we never experienced before. Okay, what your body may be preparing us, what your body, excuse me, what the body may be preparing us for is becoming, again, I already said this, but more receptive, tuning the receiver and learning to hear the signal beneath the static. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at. We're gonna follow this up with the skin I'm in. I think that's important to kind of follow up with. And then again, I will be announcing who my guest will be. Shout out to Brother Mansa. He was supposed to come on, but we just couldn't get right with the time and the scheduling. But timing is everything. I'm also going to be doing a live stream, supposed to be building with my cousin. She wanted to do something on, want to talk about trauma and family. And I think that that's big because she's my first cousin. We want to talk about generational curses and just talk about, just give some nitty gritty down to the real true science. Get spilled a little tea. She got some things on her chest and on our mind and on our hearts and souls. And I think it's a beautiful thing to do. I've never had a cousin on Metaphysical Monday, or even on, I don't even know if it's going to be a Metaphysical Monday. It may just be a different video, but I will give you guys a heads up so you can tap in and get a feel for my cousin. She got a great spirit, yeah. Shout out to Ursula, to Jada Warren, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I just think it's gonna be a whole blast. I'm gonna keep you guys up with who's coming on next and what we're doing. I'll be more on that in the future. And I just want to thank everybody that's tapped in. If you liked what you've seen, please hit like, subscribe, share a video, help a sister out. Those algorithms are a beast. And in order for us to keep getting authentic stuff, we gotta support each other, right? If not, the algorithm takes over. And just pushes out whatever. But anyway, you guys, peace and love. I hope everybody is doing well. I want you to have a beautiful rest of your week. Monday sets the tone for the week. So Peace, love, light, and happy Metaphysical Monday. Shout out to all my Geminis. Happy birthday. And yeah, peace.